Well, one of the best ways to get into mixed media is to try it on something small like a card. And the queen of making mixed media easy is Miss May Flaum, who's here with this gorgeous card that is just absolutely loaded with techniques. And May, you told us you're going to start with this little bird's nest, right?
I am, and you know, this is my absolute favorite kind of project because it takes simple stamping, and then just by using some layers and some creative use of products, you can make a card. This card, honestly, I might stick it on a canvas and keep it that way, but I've still just, the basics for making a card is all you really need to make a project like this. So yes, I definitely do want to start with my stamping. So my stamp, I'm just going to ink it up, any embossing ink or
something with a
watermark
long open
ink.
time that's going to stay wet, because when you do this kind of heat embossing,
Exactly.
we need the wet to hold on to that little embossing powder, right?
You have, yeah, and you have a lot of options on exactly what you want to do. You just want to make sure you get a nice...
So even though it looks like you haven't stamped on there,
it looks like we've not done anything yet.
It's because the ink is a kind of clear ink.
Correct. And then I'm going to use a black embossing powder because I find when I'm doing a lot of coloring, I really like how the black embossing powder will really just provide such a contrast for my project.
And here's the magic.
Here comes magic, because we're just going to tap it off.
And it only sticks.
You don't want to tap super hard because you don't want to shake it all off. But I just like to kind of, you tap it a little, you rub it a little with your finger if you need to.
You know, sometimes I'll take a little dry paintbrush to brush off that excess that may be there.
Yeah, I can do, and in fact I could, yeah, you could, I have one right here. I can, or honestly, you know, Julie, I kind of like the messy look when there's a couple little
It makes
extra.
it look more hand-drawn or something like that, which I think is cool. And of course, the reason that this works is because it only sticks to the areas where you've actually put down that clear embossing ink.
That's correct. So the next step you're going to do is you're going to get a heat tool, and you want a specific embossing. Any one will do, but a specific heat embossing tool, because if you don't have a specific heat embossing tool, it's not going to get hot enough to set. And all you're going to do is you're just going to want to go along. You see I'm kind of waving it back and forth because we don't want to burn the paper, but all you're really looking to do is you're watching that powder, and as you watch, it's like magic, because as I go along, the powder is going to turn raised and shiny.
I can see it turning shiny.
It's getting all shiny.
People always say, how do you know when it's done? So how do you know, May?
As soon as it's raised and shiny, it's done, and you can turn off the heat tool and kind of angle your card to look and see, okay, does it look done all over? Because sometimes you might have a spot that just is being stubborn and doesn't want to melt, and if that's the case, you might need to hit it with a little extra heat. It just really kind of depends. And for this kind of a project, really any cardstock or thick paper is going to work just fine.
We should say that kind of smoking a little bit there, but it's completely fine. We're okay.
We're safe. Yeah,
fire.
We're safe. It just got a little excited there.
Sometimes I find if you accidentally touch the paper and it gets a little bit of the embossing powder on it, it'll smoke a bit.
Yeah. So the next part we're going to do is we're going to use an ink, and you could use, you know, you could use watercolor, or you could use any dye ink that's going to be reactive with water.
Ooh,
and I'll show you.
With water. Is that because we're blending?
It is because we're blending. So you want something that's going to react, and you're not going to worry too much about exactly where the edges are, and you're just going to want something maybe like a piece of foam like I'm using here, or a
cosmetic
kind of a cosmetic sponge,
or a sea sponge.
And I'm just going along, and because my paper is so large, I'm not starting from off the edge, I'm just kind of starting from
and I see you're
wherever.
blending lots of different greens, and now you're bringing in some browns. How do you choose your colors?
You know, usually I choose based off what happens to be out on the table.
That's totally what I do. So I find like I have a whole series of projects that are the same colors because I haven't cleaned up.
Yeah, but the thing of it is, it works out really well. And another thing is, you might notice how sometimes I kind of go hard and we're getting a little bit of a mark here. We're not going to worry about that, because the thing that's going to happen here is, as I keep adding color, as I keep blending, it's going to all blend together. So the next part of this, though, that I'm going to go ahead and show you, I have these little ink pads, and I'm going to use these and actually directly apply to the nest. I've found if they're nice, juicy ink pads,
dark too.
it gets really bold, and it's going to help my nest, because that really is the part I want to stand out.
You know, I'm even thinking you could mix ink pads with markers. You could do some
Absolutely.
markering.
Watercolors are great, and you can see how the colors are going to be really vibrant.
So vibrant.
And now if I'm quick here, you know, you see it's still wet. I can come in here now and
you
blend it out.
And that's how it softens up.
And
that's
it softens
such
it up.
A cool idea.
In the middle there, the one egg has still a pretty bold look, and I'm gonna leave it alone. I'm gonna let it be.
Nice variation. I love that idea.
Yeah. And the next part, now you've okay, well, we've played and we have our technique. And now the next part, of course, the important part, is that you can tear this or cut it out, and you're gonna want some layers. I have up here some paper, a doily, some book paper. These are just basics that most crafters have that you can put together in some way. You can see here, I've just stitched this.
I love your messy stitching. I love it.
I love to messy stitch because I'm no good at straight stitching, so I figure I might as well make a mess and have fun with it. And you can see, so all we would have to do if we tear it or cut it or whatever, you will be able to remove the white parts or the parts you don't like. And you can just set this, and if we go back to the finished project, you can see how in the center here we've got that stamped image that has the water and the mist and everything, and then we've got our stitching and our stenciling and just a few rub-ons and embellishments.
And dimension and shiny, and I can totally see you could take all these techniques, you could use them in pocket scrapbooking, you could use them as an embellishment in your scrapbook page. This is so many mixed media techniques made so easy. Thank you, May.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely.